What's up, y'all? We had another episode of the Bigger Than Food podcast. My name is Apollo Woods. You're probably wondering, like, why is it set up different? Because today we're going to be talking about cocktails from an amazing mixologist out of Florida. Y'all wondering, like, hey, how Apollo? I thought this was thing based on like in Oklahoma, but hey, it's bigger than just where we're located. We're finding amazing Black people, no matter where they are, and so I know it's 12 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's probably 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, somewhere, but there's a happy hour going on somewhere where somebody is celebrating. Somebody's building connections through cocktails. And the conversation today, I cannot tell you what direction it's going in, but I know three things are going to happen. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about cocktails. And we're going to learn from an amazing mixologist out of Florida. It's my homie, my new friend, Brother Myles.
What's going on, man?
What's up, man?
How are you?
I'm good. Now, look, my setup is a bit more rogue and unpolished than yours. So I'm working to get to the place where I got to set up like yours, so I can have things at my disposal. But I think I might have some things later on that maybe we can make a cocktail together. Like, what you think about that?
Oh, I think we can make it happen. I'm pretty well stocked, and we'll get it done.
It looks like it, man. So if I cash app you something, can you go send me something back?
Hey, listen, say less. I got you.
All right, man. Let my audience know who you are, where you're located, and then we'll just take this conversation where it goes.
Perfect. Well, I'm Myles. I go by Standish Cocktails on all my social media handles. I'm from Pompano Beach, Florida. I currently reside in Boca. And I like making drinks, man. I'm pretty pretty basic, pretty straightforward. I love doing what I do. I've been bartending for about 18 years now. I'm just a well-versed guy who loves learning.
Okay, so we had a chance to talk last week, and of course I've been following you. I can't remember. I think you came up on my Instagram feed when I was just trying to figure out different recipes for some things that I'm working on, and it just like it was something about your attention to detail. Like I love a good cocktail. I love someone that can tell me more, and I appreciate how focused that you were as you're building cocktails. But I know we're gonna talk about the cocktails. It's easy to talk about bartending.
Yeah.
But on the podcast, I want people to know more about the person. So I know you said you live in Boca.
Yeah.
Raton,
yeah.
But you're from Pompano.
I'm from Pompano, Florida.
So where and what was it like growing up in Pompano? Like describe what Pompano is. I have no idea.
Pompano is a special breed of city, right? Because everything there is so it's a little slowed down. It could be a little hood sometimes. It could be a little suburb sometimes. Honestly, it's just kind of a mix of everything. It's easy. It's close to the beach. It's just its own unique character, man. It's one of them cities where you got to be there to experience it and really, really understand it. I know for me, it honestly made me who I am as a person. Like growing up in that city and seeing how things are there. It made me hungry for just different things outside of my city. And just seeing that there's other things available for people like myself outside of the city, but it also taught me hustle. Like it Pompano for me reminds me of just good, hardworking people.
We had we were talking. You referenced your dad a lot and
Mm-hmm.
hardworking person. Do you
Mm-hmm.
do you think that because like your family dynamic, like living in Pompano and see, before I answer that question, why'd you leave Pompano?
A better life for my family, right? I got a wife, I got kids, and it's one of those things where you know better, so you do better. Um, and when the opportunity for me to actually just provide something different for my kids in particular, especially with school systems and stuff like that, I made the choice to come out to Boca. Just the schools are great out here, man, and that, like, for me, I'm a big, like I said to you before, I'm a big learner kind of guy. Like I love learning about my craft. Um, just learning different things in general. I just thought it was best, like from an educational point of view, to really just hone in on that with my kids, you know, and just get a different view of life.
And so when you were talking about, we talked before, you were talking about like the example that your dad set and how you took the example that he was setting for you.
Yep.
Because you reference your family a lot when we talk, and
Yep.
and so for me, it's like you are setting this sacrifice, not even the sacrifice. You're committed to providing opportunities for your family and your kids. Was that something that you received a model from the relationship with your father?
1000%. I watched my dad literally until his late 60s get up in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock, and work all the way until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So just that hustle of um, just really going out there and getting it. Just really just sat with me, man. Like nobody's gonna give you anything. Nobody's giving handouts. If there's something that you want in life, you go after it. And I mean, you really go after it, not like halfway sit on your ass and do it, but like really get in there. And trying to teach my kids that as well. Like there's so much more of a reward by getting up and going after something and trying to make something of yourself, and for me being able to teach that to my kids, and then being able to see me get up every single day, get after it, whether it's cocktails, whether it's working a 9 to 5, whether it's me just working on myself. The name of the game is growth, and it's not only a privilege, but I feel like it's it not feel like it is my duty as a parent, um to nurture that and to just really show them that. You know what I mean? That's something that is super important when you're talking about family. Family for me is everything. So me learning that from my dad and taking these jewels and these gems that he was constantly dropping in my ear and being able to take them and apply them to my seeds is everything to me, man.
I think the modeling what you see and wanting to provide the best. And sometimes fathers and men, especially Black men, don't get enough credit for the commitment to family. There's all the statistics about what Black men and Black fathers don't do.
Man.
I think the media thrives off of talking about conflict and contrast, and men don't communicate, and men are not emotional, all these other things. But there's a weight and responsibility that we have as men, as fathers, as brothers, as sons, that
Yeah.
sometimes we are not able to articulate because it is in us. And yes, could we communicate better? But I think that's also part of what makes us great, when you are purposeful and intentional in making decisions, and then hoping that you have the support that you need to make these decisions. And you live in Florida, this is a tourism state.
Yep.
Right now, Florida is very political with right now it's a highly politically charged state, but we won't get into that. Right? At least I think we won't. It depends on how these cocktails go. But how did bartending, how did cocktails become a part of your career path? Like, what made you start to think about, like, you know what, I can make a career out of being a mixologist? Where did that start for you?
So it's crazy, right? I come from a musical family and a musical background, but at the same time, I also come from a family of cooks and chefs and creators and this kind of thing, right? So those two worlds have always kind of just been, inching along. And then at one point, I was an artist that was blessed with the opportunity to tour and do this and that, and then things kind of fell through, and I moved back home, and I remember uh, going to a TGI Fridays. I was like, man, I'm just gonna try working in a restaurant. You know what I mean? Start out as a cook, start out as a food runner, and then whatever happens from that happens. And it's almost like a light bulb would go off every single time I would walk out into the dining room, and I would see the bar. And I'd see the bar, and it would just be lit up with people and just vibrant, and it just always seemed like such a good time. So the manager at the time, um, for lack of better words, just he was like, man, you have like this personality where you like to talk, you like to, you know what I mean, you have a way with people. Why don't you try to become a bartender? And then once I became a bartender, that was it. I was hooked like immediately. Then I wanted to learn everything about it, whether it was learning how to do tricks, whether it was flair bartending, whether it was cocktails, basic ones, really intricate ones. It kept my brain going, and it kept me excited. And still to this day, I'm still super excited about the craft, because I feel like as years go on, and as you have different people that are super innovative and just really pushing the creative side of things, I learn. Like life is a learning thing, so you should
Well,
be.
hold on. Well, we can't skirt over when you said. So when were you at TGI Fridays? Like, what year is that?
2000 and uh maybe 6.
Okay, so this was the time when it was TGI Fridays, Bennigan's,
Yep.
Chili's,
Chili,
I think probably,
Applebee's.
yeah. So the chains were kind of coming on the scenes where they were it was more of a social experience. They had the digital jukebox and all that going on back then. So
Oh yeah.
because there are some folks that are watching this, they're probably thinking about TGI Fridays today.
Mm-hmm.
TGI Fridays back then was different. So how different was when you think about you starting and giving that freedom back then
Mm-hmm.
versus the corporate chain of bartending now? Like, what's the difference in all the experience that you had?
Um, so Fridays back then, man, like you could walk in that bar at any given time, and especially during happy hour, it would be like 3, 4 deep, 4 bartenders, and I mean the music would be jamming, you would be just rocking. And then also at that time, like I feel like, not even I feel like, I know they like really were big into like individuality. You know what I mean? Like I can go to work and I can wear a different hat every day of the week, long as it wasn't offensive. I can pin up my uniform. I can have like little things drawn on there. Just whatever it was that made you a unique individual and made you stand out in your own way, which they called it flair. So whatever that was that made you you, they embraced that. And then as time went on, and I hate to say, I hate to use the word politics, right? But there's politics and everything, right? So as time goes on in restaurants, we're looking for a more uniform look and a more unified look. A lot of those things changed with that. So then it was away with the hats, it was away with the flair, it was away with everybody being your own, like your own individual. It became, it was structured. It was structured, but it became like extremely structured. And for me, that's when things started getting kind of unfun. You know what I mean? Like bartending is one of those. It's just one of those crafts, man. That it needs that excitement and it needs that funk, um, to draw people in.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about a lot of those corporate chain restaurants. And that's no disrespect to any corporate chain, because there's a lot of things that to be learned through those big restaurants. You know what I mean? You learn how to operate in a different manner. You learn how to um, you learn how to make the basics with a lot of cocktails. Um, it's just one of those things, though. Once you start growing and start really seeing how things have changed versus then versus now, you're like, oh man, like it. How did how did we get here? You know?
Yeah. So you mentioned individuality, and I remember that time. Like this is when around the 2006 era. Like I recently graduated. Well, not recent, but probably 3 years out of undergrad. We were still throwing parties in Houston. The happy
Mhm.
hour scene, like happy hours, just really starting to develop in cities, especially
Mhm.
major metropolitan cities around 2001 ish. It started to develop its personality and how it matched with restaurants. Because I mean, you can go to a bar, but a bar experience is different from a happy hour experience inside of a restaurant or maybe a hotel. You mentioned individuality and how things have changed.
Mhm.
Do you think that losing that individuality as a Black bartender has become more difficult now? Now that there's this like refined in a box and polished and don't do
Mhm.
this, don't do that. In this age of social media, do you feel like you've had to operate more cautiously and more intentionally than maybe your non-Black or white counterparts have to as a bartender?
So one, that's always has been and always will be that way in my own personal opinion and my own experience. Um, my and I strongly can say this. In my 18 years of being a bartender, a mixologist, however you look at my craft, I can honestly say I've almost always uh, been the Black guy behind the bar. Um, so for me, it was always, well, I'm not going to let that be the defining characteristic of who I am behind the bar. So it was, okay, I'm going to work, but I'm going to work twice as hard. I'm going to learn, but I'm going to learn twice as hard. Um, I'm going to try to be the best, but I'm going to try to be better than the best version of myself at all times. Um, for that reason, because when you're behind the bar and just from how I look, the spotlight is on you already. So you either put up or shut up. You know what I mean? So and for me, I'm not shutting up. So I'm putting up. Like this, I'm not to say that.
You know, that's so I'm gonna give an example. Give an example. Um, so um, grew up in a predominantly white town. I was
Mhm.
the only Black guy in a lot of spaces, but strong, close knit family where I'm from, and
Mhm.
so we are used to having to find ways to navigate through spaces where we are either the one or the severe minority in a space. All right, so good friend of mine. She's also in the industry. You know, she's like family. She's like I call her like a sister to me.
Mhm.
So I decided to invite her to the oldest Black-owned bar in Oklahoma City. This bar's been around since 1975. Family has a lot of major history in relation to hospitality. So
Okay.
get there early. They pour strong drinks. They have happy hour, the best live music in town Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. There's not a live band experience that could kill it. It is truly Black culture. Get there early, sitting at the bar. I know the folks. So she comes in later. But see,
Mhm.
they don't realize that at that time, she was the state director for a large wine and spirits brand. So you didn't order anything from their catalog and it did not pass her hands. So I'm pushing Black-owned bars and all that. And so she comes in. I've had probably 3 drinks. It's like 6:30, 7 o'clock. She comes in. The bartender doesn't serve her. Like looks at her. Now this is Black-owned establishment. Looks at her
Wow.
and like overlooks her, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, and and I'll tie this in terms of experience. And so she sits next to me, and I see it because, of course, we experience what it's felt like to be by yourself. And I
Correct.
looked at the bartender and I said, "Serve her a drink." Fill in the blanks.
Mhm.
And she goes, "Oh, she's with you?" I was like, "Yes, that's my friend. She's with me." Sits down, gets the drink, goes on. Later, when we talked about it, she said that was the first time she was ever in a space where her being white, and she finally understood what it felt like to be Black in that
Mhm.
industry. Now I'll say this for her. She's an advocate. She's not an ally. She's an advocate. She's a friend. She gets it. She's not one of them new woke people. Like she is a person that when I would go with her to events and I was a handful, a dot in the audience, she would look out for me. Hey, like, do you need a drink? Hey, you could like come here, Apollo, and let me introduce. Like, she was looking out for me, so I felt obligated to look out for her in the same way. We
1000%.
we had an amazing conversation where she was like, "I get it now." Because when you're in
Mhm.
a space in an environment where you're constantly the minority,
Mhm.
it opportunities that present themselves for the majority to experience how you feel are slim. And I
Very.
bring that back around to you being a bartender in Florida and where
Uh-huh.
you are and where you live. How have those experiences? Well, how growing up in your hometown and then
Uh-huh.
now moving to a place where you're likely the minority, you probably are. How have
Yeah.
those different experiences made you more aware and cognizant where you always knew eyes are on me? I have no choice but to be excellent.
Um, so there's two sides of that, right? I always like there's the bartender side and then there is the guest side, right? So like for instance, when I go out to drink and I go hang or I'll chill with the wife or whatever, I make it known to I said, don't let anybody know that I'm a bartender because I want to get the experience that you would give somebody that looked like me, not somebody that knows that you're supposed to be doing XYZ. Just give me, I want the regular experience because how I demonstrate how I spend my dollars is how when I sit down and I'm not greeted or I'm kind of just like, what do you want? Or any of those kind of attitudes, fine. I'm already here. I'll order my drink just to see, just to check the temperature, so to speak. And that's it. I'll have one drink, pay my tab, leave, and I'll never come back. And I like those kind of things. Like I stand on, right? Because you have to remember one thing: the like establishments can't. I get it. They can't be in control of everything and everyone all the time. But with that, and this is this is for anybody who owns a restaurant or anybody who's part of any kind of brand, or you're an owner of a brand. Those people represent your brand. Those people represent your livelihood. Those people represent the culture that you're building in your restaurant. So if I come to your restaurant and the culture is I'm going to serve that person, but I'm not going to serve that person, that's not a culture I want to be a part of.
Mm.
I have to look at it that way because I'm on the other side of that as well. And I know that if I saw somebody that sat down at a bar, I don't even say I know, because I have regulars. So I've worked in Fort Lauderdale, I've worked in Miami. I have regulars, black regulars too, at that literally have been following me probably for like the past 12 to 15 years, from bar to bar, from Miami, Fort Lauderdale to Boca. And I like literally I can vouch for that. Like they come for that, because if you sit down at a bar that I'm working at, I'm probably gonna gravitate more towards you because I know what it feels like. And
But how
that's
does
not
that,
to say anybody else is gonna get. You're gonna get great service from me regardless.
but how does that feel though? Like I know I've found black chefs that when I came because of you, nothing else. How does it make you feel as a bartender when eyes are on you, and over the course of your career that you
Mhm.
have black people that are coming because you were there and they're coming to support you? How, like what feelings evoke when you get that experience?
Honestly, it makes me feel amazing, man. Like I don't know how else to sum that up in one word. It makes me feel amazing. It makes me feel honored, honestly, that people would take their time, drive the distance, and say, you know what? It's cool. The restaurant's cool, but I'm choosing you. Like I like the restaurant, but I love what you do. So therefore, if the restaurant is behind somebody that's like you, I'm behind that restaurant. And people don't understand the power of that. You don't. They don't. The message that you're sending with that is, hey, we chose this guy because of his skill and the things that he does. So in turn, we're like the people that are going to come are going to choose us because we chose him.
That's like, and I don't know, like whoever is watching and paying attention, and just in the words that you chose with, when you have a craft and you're passionate about it and you're choosing to do something, and the fact that that feeling of being chosen,
Mhm.
the feeling that you get, that energy between the experience that you are providing to a person. And to me, it's similar to food. It's something that connects people together, brings folks together. Um, and I thought about the question I asked you, we were talking before the podcast, was like, have you had that experience where when a guest sat down at your bar and they didn't really have a friendly disposition, and your biases kicked in, you were like, I kind of feel like I know what this is. And then when you show how skillful you are, and you knew your brands, you knew your flavors, you knew your whiskeys, you knew your cocktails, you found ways to pull stuff out of them. And by the time they left, the interaction between you as a black bartender and that
Mhm.
person, a non-black person, changed.
Oh yeah. So I always say spirits are the great equalizer, because you have like this, you have this allotted time from the time that person sits their ass in a chair and the time that they get up. It could be 15 minutes, it could be an hour. Whatever that time is, you 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 have a choice to make. you can either just give them a mediocre experience because of the experiences that you've had from people, or because you're standoffish, or you can go the other route and give them an experience that they'll never forget, that'll actually change their mind and spark their brain a little bit to be like, I shouldn't be acting like that when I sit down at a bar, because I just had an intelligent conversation with somebody that knows what they're talking about, knows the business. Like, you see all these spirits and all of everything behind me.
Yeah, of course I do. I'm feeling a little self-conscious, brother. Like, I got, you know what I'm saying? I feel like I got a little bit of something, you know what I'm saying? But you know, my little, you know, makeshift kind of setup I got, and here you got, what's that? Mahogany wood, and you know, you got a hard top bar, you got your bottles all lined up, and they're like centimeters apart from each bottle and very polished.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying?
You ever been in the library before?
So I feel like I'm being quizzed for my pre-SAT right now. Like,
no, man. Listen, this is okay. This is my library.
Okay, I love it, man.
These are all of my books. All of my books. Y'all see my favorite book behind me? That's Uncle Nearest. There we go. That's my favorite story of them all.
Shout out to Fawn and Keith, right? You know what
yes, sir. Fawn, Keith,
number one in the world.
I see y'all. Y'all are that whole establishment is amazing, but that we'll get into that whole conversation.
Oh yeah. So when you talked about that library, like I'm like, how do you remember all of these different cocktails and understanding like what flavors or barrels or regions go with what? Like, how does your brain process that? Because I gotta have a notepad.
So my thing with life, I operate in a state of passion. If I am passionate about something, I want to learn about something. If I'm passionate about something, I want to know about it. Like, why would I set boundaries for myself? You understand what I'm saying? So I take the time to spend my hard-earned money to purchase these things. I take my time to read. I take my time to study, and then I retain. And the if I'm being honest, the beautiful casualty of all of that is I get to sit back and sip some great spirits and have some great stories to go along with it. That's just the plus side of it.
Sure. So, going to kind of switching over to like in terms of the business of things, you know, you have, you know, from the time that I've been following you, probably over the past, you know, 12 months plus, I see like the tweaks and the changes. You can scroll down through your Instagram feed and see, you know, like you are starting in one place, and then you can see the quality of the video changes, and then, you know, all of a sudden, this is probably within the last 5 months. You know, Mr. Burns, you know what I'm saying? Like,
you own it. You're observant, and I love that about you,
brother. His assistant Tiffany is from Oklahoma City. So when she made an announcement she was going to move to Atlanta, and I was like, okay. And then she started talking. I was like, oh wait. And then I follow Uncle Nearest, and then seeing that I guess he's like one of the leads in branding, and he's doing great things. I'm like, so how did you take your passion for bartending, mixology, and cocktails in this industry and use that to leverage a major partnership relationship that I'm going to assume has taken you to a different level? Like, how did that happen for you in the last whatever months?
Honestly, so you remember that conversation that we had about being passionate and just about having no boundaries, right? And I'm very critical on myself about everything. And when I learn, then I apply. Learn, then apply it. So at one point, I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm like, okay, I need to level up differently and I need to move differently. Like, this is what I want to do full time, is this, being able to talk to people, being able to have conversations, being able to just be with and united with different brands that have those same beliefs. So with Uncle Nearest in particular, I've been a fan of the brand since like literally the beginning, like day one, pretty much. Just by the story, by everything. So I started posting videos, and then one day I posted a video. I don't remember what the video was, but I remember tagging Kenny in it. And shout out to Kenny, by the way. Kenny, Tiffany, that whole the TKBS Nation, y'all are amazing. I tagged him.
Oh, I got to do a little mimic of Kitty. Like he's like, shout out. He's like, it's the Soulful Sunday series. Like he's so mellow and cool and chill, man. You're like, what is he about to say? He about to say something cool, and then he gonna say something that's gonna punch you in the stomach. You go back to being real cool.
His cool is like, always turned on to the max. Always.
He's like the cool ass uncle. He like,
yeah,
that uncle that has
legit
something to say. You're like, he said something serious, but he made you laugh.
But he's been and seen through like so many different things, like the jewels that he drops. Sometimes, like you have to, like you would be doing yourself a disservice by not picking up on them and like applying them. Like anytime somebody's lived or been through something, like lived it themselves, and is not talking from a point of, oh, I heard somebody do this, but physically have been in it and in the trenches, and you're giving you the how-tos and the how-nots.
That's wisdom.
You have to pay attention to that. You have to pay attention to that. You have to listen. It is your duty. I say that all the time. As a human being, it is your duty to be a part of this thing we call life and grow. And you do not grow if you don't listen, take, and apply. You just
so as a business like strategy, you are like, it doesn't take long for you to be connected to you to know that you're going to study and be excellent at your craft.
1000%.
But in terms of, what would you recommend or suggest for someone that is trying to establish a brand relationship or brand partnership with, whomever they're trying to establish, whether you are in retail and you want to establish a relationship with Target's been doing a great job, a better job at supporting Black-owned brands. Or if you're talking about, hey, I'm a bartender and I'm in the spirits industry and I want to connect with Uncle Nearest. Like, what would you recommend for a person in business, an entrepreneur, on how they can establish a partnership relationship with a larger brand to help them or help each other?
So the saying, just come correct. That one statement, there's so much behind telling somebody you need to come correct. Coming correct means, hey, let me study the business side of things so that I know what I'm doing. Let me judge my own self and see where I can improve at. Let me judge my own self on my approach, whether it's how you speak, whether it's how you write, whether it's all these things. Put yourself in that person's shoes or that brand's shoes and say, hey, if someone came to me and they were like this, what would I say, right? Because we as people are so quick to criticize other people without thinking on the like when the shoe's on the other foot. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to judge yourself in that own capacity. You have to. So my suggestion for anybody that's trying to do that is take time. First of all, understand what it is that you want to do. Secondly, take time to study what it is. Once you figured out that that's what you want to do, okay, study. Then, once you've done all that, show your worth. Not only show your worth, but you need to know your worth. Because if you don't know your worth, you can't show somebody your worth if you don't even know it about yourself. And it took me a long time to figure that out. Like I give so much credit to COVID when it comes to using time for personal growth and really getting to know who you are as a person. And that was one huge thing, excuse me, for me that I took out of that was taking time to grow and taking time to understand, so that when, just like how you said earlier, like you go through my feed and you see you see the evolution of Standish cocktails go from, like, I can show you some videos from my personal Instagram pages. I don't even use that anymore just because of what I'm doing with everything else now. Of just it was literally like a old kitchen table, poor quality, and a black, looks like a black curtain that's covering the background, and that's all that I would record on. But the personality was there and the drive was there. It's just I didn't know how to do all that other stuff. So I knew what I wanted. So I set out on a mission to learn.
All right, so that's a good segue. So, while we've been talking, I've had my little stash to the side. So I don't know if everybody can see, my home setup. So I got my my bartender little Amazon set. I appreciate the colors of black and gold. So you know what I'm saying? I do that, and then I'm sipping on Charles Woodson's Intercept. Now, it's black on brand. I enjoy this. It's a good Cabernet Sauvignon. When you drink a few things, you start to talk, a little certain kind of way. And I want to sound like, I don't know if I'm really saying it really right. But, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. I just, I'm country, so sometimes my tongue gets stuck at the top of my roof of my mouth. And I'm drinking wine, but it would not make sense for us to have conversation and not figure out what cocktail that Myles, Standish Cocktails, 18 years in the industry, award-winning mixologist, representing brands and amazing in details what he does, is that we don't make a cocktail, brother.
Oh, I'm with it. I mean, I'm set.
So I'll tell you what I have, and then you tell me what do you think that we could do, right? So I have some rum, Florida Cognac. I have some apricot liqueur. I have simple syrup, bitters. I have vodka. I like this. Wifey rosé, black on. I actually really enjoy that.
Hey,
that's good too. I got so you tell me, like, what can we do?
I have that apricot liqueur, and you have a dark rum. So why don't we run with a riff off of an old fashioned? One, I love old fashions. One of the most classic cocktails there is. But I always say about cocktails, I call them naked cocktails. Like, they're not all super dressed up, right? They're just what they are is what they are. Mm-hmm. So those cocktails to me matter more because there's little room for error. So you either make it right or you don't make it at all. Like, that's it.
Let's do this. Let's take probably like a 20-second break. I'm going to grab some ice real quick, and then we'll come back, and I'm going to let you teach me how to make a cocktail.
Let's do it.
Fair?
I love it.
All right, let's take 20 seconds. I'm going to grab some ice. We'll come right back. That probably wasn't 20 seconds, but that's fast enough. Because I'm excited. I went from, look, hey, y'all, I'll be honest. It is, I'm rewarding myself from taking care of myself. My morning walks, I'm dropping some weight, blood pressure is normal. And yeah, this wine is good. And being a country guy that I am, I do have my water. I think water tastes better in preserved glasses like this. So we'll talk about that another time. All right. So what do you think that we can make, man? I think I could follow along with you, but I'm following your lead. Like, what are we? I'm following your lead. You tell me what we got to do.
Okay, cool. We're gonna start with a little mixing glass, right? So you don't have to have the fancy mixing glass like I got. You can use it. You can use a jelly jar. You can use a pint glass. Anything that you can stir with works just fine.
I'm ready.
So we're going to do that, right? We're going to use, I have 10-to-1 rum, black owned. Now, what's special about this one in particular is that it's a Uncle Nearest bourbon cask finished rum. Like y'all, I told you, y'all know how I like Uncle Nearest runs deep in my heart as far as love goes for the brand. So anything involving that brand, I'm probably just going to gravitate to it just because I love it so much.
Does it make a difference if something has like you said, it's in an Uncle Nearest cask, but it's a different brand? How does that combination work? Because that, to me, that all just rings relationship and partnership, but that's a different type of conversation. But does it matter what cask it's in terms of the flavor profile?
Of course, the barrels that you sit anything in, they always matter. So this was finished in an Uncle Nearest barrel. There's some companies that finish their stuff in rum barrels. Like there are Scotch companies that do rum barrel finishes so that you get a sweeter flavor profile on it. Like there's so many variations of barrels. Just look at it like this, right? If you think about the amount of spirits that are aged in barrels, right? And then once those spirits come out of the barrels, what do you do with the barrel? So some spirits repurpose the barrel. Some spirits use the barrel for smoking chips. It just some sit cigars in there and let them kind of soak up that flavor. You have barrel aged honey, barrel aged syrup. Like the list just goes on and on and on and on.
Okay, that makes sense. So I'm not gonna say their name anymore because I'm not sponsoring any brands. I will unequivocally talk about Uncle Nearest because I love it. Anything black owned, I'll talk about, but if it's not black owned, I'm not going to. So that's just for y'all. So I do have my 18-year-old dark rum here. So I'm following your instructions. So what do we do next?
So we're gonna do 2 ounces, right? So
that's the big side, right?
Yep. Old fashions are meant to be spirit forward. So a 2-ounce pour is very important. It's the base of the spirit. You want that spirit to come through. It just to balance everything else that goes along with the cocktail. You want this to be the star of the show. So star of the show.
Don't do no fancy stuff. Don't do like the long thing. Like, don't do that because I'll make a mess.
No.
And, look, as an entrepreneur, I got to afford what I mess up. So
nope, I'm keeping it super basic. I'm not doing no fancy tricks. No, I'm doing regular man style. So
Look, I come from a family of moonshiners, so if I pour heavy, I just pour heavy.
That's all right. I don't think nobody's gonna judge you for that. So we're gonna put 2 ounces, right?
Hold on, but no, look, but that's 2 ounces, but black bartenders do a little bit extra. So
There's it's the 2 ounce plus.
there it is. There it is. It's my version. It's my version.
Then we're gonna do 1 ounce of this apricot liqueur.
Okay.
It smells amazing. Like this is probably one of my favorite liqueurs as of late.
For anyone following, so locally here in Oklahoma City, you'll go to any of your local liquor stores, and there are some black-owned liquor stores too. But it's whatever your liqueur is. This one, I'm not saying the name because I said if it's not black, I'm not gonna say the name. But you go to the liquor store, you can ask for a apricot liqueur. Me personally, before making this, I've never made this with Myles before, so I've never done this in a way. But usually in your mixer aisles, you'll find different ones to experiment with them. But this one has very much of a French name, but on the label it says premium liqueur. It smells really, really, really good. So the 1 ounce is the small side on the thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So on your liqueurs, keep it. Don't do no extra, or you just.
No, because liqueurs tend to be they're sweeter, right?
Okay.
So with cocktails, like I was saying, you need balance. So you go too sweet,
Okay.
It's gonna be off. So and you're also gonna add a little bit of simple syrup to this because just keep in mind it's still a liqueur. It's still an alcoholic spirit. At the end of the day, liqueur or not, it's just you dial back on the sweetener, right? So instead of us using 1 ounce simple syrup, we'll only use a ½ ounce of simple syrup, just to kind of mellow everything out.
So if I have a super sweet cocktail, they may have not dialed back on giving the proper balance in the sweetness. Because I've had some old fashions. When I go to a bar, first I ask for an old fashioned as my test. I'm like, why does this taste really sweet, or it tastes like E&J? I don't know what this tastes like. This is not it.
Yep, that means it could have not added the sugar at all. They may not have added enough sugar. The spirit may be too strong. They could be using like 100 proof bourbon or higher. It could be like 120 proof, and you just don't know it. If you don't know the spirit that's going into the old fashioned, there's so many different variations of that one cocktail. I guess that's why I preach the importance of knowing what you're drinking, so you can kind of understand why something is too sweet, why something is too strong, why is it not strong enough.
That's why we got to make sure we're intentional on who we support in our bars. So we got to find our black bartenders are gonna tell the truth. Because black folks, we gonna tell the truth. And look, I'm sorry, I got to just say this. So I opened up this bottle before we started. I'm about halfway through this wine bottle by myself. So so I got simple syrup, and this is a ½ ounce.
Yep. So that's going to be half of that little side.
Okay, so they're like measurements on the inside for those who.
Correct. Yep.
So what is this device called? What is this called?
This is called a jigger.
Yeah, we
hard J.
We gonna leave it at that. We gonna leave it at that.
Correct. Correct.
We gonna leave it at that. Because we're coming off the Alabama massacre, so I don't want nobody to get comfortable and say that.
No. I'm not sitting on the fold-out chair, so we good. I don't know.
I think I got mine close by. All right, so we have 2 ounces of rum or whiskey.
Yep.
There is 1 ounce of the apricot liqueur.
Yep.
There's a ½ ounce of simple syrup.
Yep.
And we did ½ ounce of simple syrup because you want to reduce, because of the sweetness, you want to reduce the simple syrup to half because the liqueur is sweeter, but it
Yes.
also has liquor as well. So get your
Yep.
balance. So okay, all right. I feel like we're close, and I'm getting excited. So where we going
Very
next?
close. So next is your bitters, right? And bitters are literally the salt and pepper of the cocktail world. Like I have another wall next to me that I have just an assortment. I've got lavender bitters, celery bitters, firewater bitters, New Orleans style bitters, chocolate, aromatic, peach.
So
Um,
I've always wondered this. Like, so what role does a bitters to me is the part that's intimidating because
mhm.
you sprinkle a little bit. You said salt and pepper. Like I what is the what's the what's bitters? What is the role of bitters in a cocktail?
Bitters are used to create balance. That's why I say they're like the salt and pepper of the world, of the cocktail world, right?
Okay.
So just imagine you're cooking something, you're cooking your favorite steak, you're cooking your favorite meal, whatever the case may be, and you add a little pinch of salt, right? And you taste it and you're like, man, it needs a little bit more. And let's just say you're adding it to it, and then all of a sudden the top flies off and you just add a whole bunch of salt. You threw the balance of everything off
Yeah.
completely. So look at bitters in that same regard. And it just depends on what flavor profile you're trying to go with. Like
Okay.
the bitters. I look at cocktails like you look at cocktails like 3D, right?
Mhm.
Instead of one note. So you have it, instead of it being strong or not strong, there's the strength, there's the smell, there's the taste, there's is it going to be more on the savory side? Is it going to be more on the sweeter side? So when you're building your cocktail, you want all those elements to kind of dance harmoniously in the cocktail. So with bitters, it
Ah,
kind of
okay. So it's
yeah.
like so there is this almost like symbiotic relationship between to me a mixologist and a chef. You're
Very
building
much so.
these layers, and it just seems like the I don't know, maybe the acidic or salty part of it
Mhm.
comes at the end. Is that a, well, no. But the principle is you're building layers to get a particular taste profile at the end.
Correct. You just said it. You're building layers of flavors.
Okay.
That. So for me, I always say that's one area that I thrive in, just because I'm a cook as well. So me playing with flavors, understanding
Hold
that
on, Brad.
flavors.
You didn't. I mean, I know we didn't even touch on the music part. You kind of skirted over that, but you didn't. I mean, yeah, you said you like to be in the kitchen. We talked before. You when you said cook now, you know.
Oh, I get busy. That's my.
All right, look, hold on. Let's we gotta stay focused because I'm half a bottle in. I love to cook myself.
Okay.
Here's a funny story. So when I'm walking around in the beginning of OKC Black Eats, folks would
Mhm.
be like, chef. And I wouldn't turn around because I'm not a chef. Like I love to cook. I love my mom, my grandmother. They're my influence in cooking. And
Mhm.
I'm not afraid of the kitchen. If you're gonna buy me something for the kitchen. And so this
Mhm.
lady was pissed at me. She's like, chef. I was like, I finally tried to say, listen, ma'am, I hear you. I'm not a chef. And I explained it to her, and she was like, "Oh, I got it." But I was like, "I'm not a chef because I respect the craft." But you start talking about food, we might have to get another episode or something else later on to figure out the food things. I've noticed, I peep. You know,
That's
you've been trying to you've been incorporating a little bit more food stuff as
I have.
as the what do you call it? As the Renaissance man. I've seen, I've
Yep.
watched.
That's it. Listen, spirited foods. That's my thing. That's my niche.
So
That's
we
it.
got 2 ounces of rum for me, 2 ounces of
Yep.
whiskey, Uncle Nearest for you, 1 ounce of apricot liqueur for me, for both of us. Half
Yep.
an ounce of simple syrup for both of us.
Yep.
And next is the bitters. So how much
Bitters.
bitters do I use?
So you can do two, I would say 2 to 4 dashes, depending on the type of bitters, depending on the flavor profile. You're using aromatic bitters,
Yes.
go with like 2 to 3 dashes. I have walnut bitters, so I thoroughly enjoy walnut bitters. I think they're awesome. Walnut bitters and chocolate bitters are some of my favorite bitters to play with.
I do have chocolate bitters. Should I use chocolate bitters instead?
No, go with the aromatic.
Okay.
Yeah. Good old aromatic. I'm going to go with the walnut bitters. I'm only going to add 2 dashes of this walnut bitters because it is potent.
Oh, it is.
That's really all you need.
Okay.
Right? Now, we're going to add some ice to this bad boy, right? Go right there.
Hey, y'all don't worry about my cup, man. You know, I got my
No judgment.
Shout out to Russell Westbrook. That's another player on here, but you know, we only do black over here. Anyway. So am I filling the glass up or is it like half full? Like how do I do that?
No, this is good. You can do half. That's fine. Because we're only going to be using it just to dilute the drink a little bit.
Okay.
But see how I'm stirring. Once you put the ice in, then you're kind of on a timer because you don't want the ice to just sit in there and just water down the drink. You want to stir it so that it's chilled, but not overly watery, so to speak. Just enough to dilute it. Right?
Okay.
Now for me, I don't have any more. I don't have big cocktail cubes right now.
Hold on, I got look. Hold on, I got the thing. I got one too.
Hey,
let's go.
So you might be able to do this after all. You know, you might have a future in it.
Look, come on, man. I can play around with you. Come on.
So this Nick and Nora glass, right? Because I'm not putting it in a rocks glass. I'm not being fancy. I don't have my ice with me, so
I'm not. Wait a minute.
But listen, you can put it.
Nope.
Let me guess, you got the Nick and Nora glass too.
I don't know. Look, I'm not gonna repronounce that, but it's gonna be similar to your glass.
I mean, that works. That works just fine.
Come on.
So the beautiful thing about cocktails, we're gonna pour this in a glass, right? The beautiful thing about cocktails is there are rules, but you know, sometimes rules are meant to be broken, right? So cocktails are meant to be enjoyed how you like them. At the end of the day, I can know everything in the world about cocktails. I can show you how to make the best yada 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 whatever. If it doesn't fit the flavor profile of your liking, then all of that doesn't matter. It's what matters to you. What do you like in your cocktail, especially if you're making it just for you? If you like an extremely tart and sour cocktail and you want to put a whole 2 ounces of lemon juice in your drink because that's what you like, then who am I to tell you that you're wrong? It's what you like.
Okay. First thought.
Talk to me.
I love I love old fashions.
I'm sitting this way you talk. Oh, that's good.
First of all, the color of this looks balanced and amazing, and it has that like apricot-ish type color to it. But what was interesting is when you said you moved to this type of glass, I'm a person in my mind before this conversation was whiskey goes in whiskey glasses. These last one is glasses, but this is a bit rebellious, but the smell of apricot, and I do smell it. Actually, to me, this changed the bitterness of bitters.
Yeah.
So the bitterish flavor, because sometimes folks may overdo bitters, but for whatever reason, the apricot made the bitters balanced, but it
That's
supported the apricot. And I'm
mm,
like,
mm.
it's
Don't you
see.
like science? It's amazing, right? It's like that's the
It is
beautiful thing about how all of this works, man. Is then that's like that aha moment that you're having is the moments
no,
that
this is no joke.
I live for.
This is no joke. Like in my mind, old fashions are made with whiskey. Period. Now you had whiskey, but I had rum, but it has this balance from the apricot to the smokiness of the rum. The bitters weren't back, and I'm like,
But look, this is rum. It's not whiskey. It's
oh yeah,
rum.
rum. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so it was rum and the whiskey
Finished
backs.
in Uncle Near's barrels. I don't know if you guys
Man,
can see that or not, but pretty awesome.
hey man, I might be taking an afternoon nap and trying to find some nachos to make up the refrigerator.
Yeah, man, this is delicious. Now, normally, because I don't have like my pool, I don't have my fruit, I don't have my peelers, I don't have all that stuff. Oh, I do have these fancy little cherries though. But be advised, if you're gonna go get these cherries, they are ridiculously expensive for no reason. I got them for an event that I was doing. It's the only reason, but normally I do not spend that kind of money on
Look,
cherries.
I got the
But
cherry too. I got the cherry.
these little jar of cherries will set you
Look,
back about $20 for a jar of
you're
cherries.
like
And
little
even
brother right now. You do what I'm gonna do.
yeah,
See, this is I'm I am this is I mean this is an organic thing, right, y'all? Like this is because I really enjoy learning because I meet so many women who are really intimidated by whiskey and by dark alcohol because
mhm.
the bias is about dark alcohol. But when I in this glass and when I smell it, I'm like, this is something that I believe. If you said this is old fashioned,
Yep,
even Uncle Nearest,
yep,
black woman owned, to
yep.
encourage to drink because that's the science part about it. And this is a really good. I would have never thought to consider dark rum with an old fashioned, man. Like honestly, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have.
So what's cool about cocktails
And
too,
for the
right?
record, y'all, I have not made this before. Like I make a lot of different things.
Hmm.
I have never made this old fashioned with these ingredients, and this is. I can see why people follow you for 12
Hey, man, I'm just passionate about what I do. That's all. Like just even us sitting here having this conversation and creating creating experience and creating those like layers of flavor is what I was talking about. Like it starts like even you saying like it just before you even sip it, everything about that cocktail you like from the nose. And so when I'm creating cocktails and I'm building layers and thinking about flavors and this and that, um, I always think about all those things. It's just not your taste buds. You have to think, okay, does this cocktail smell incredible? Um, does it look incredible? How does the glass feel in my hands? Is it too big? Is it too small? Um, is this cocktail gonna last over time? Should I put it on ice or should I serve it straight up because I want it to keep that oomph and that spirit? Like these are all things that you have to think about. Should I be using small ice or should I be using a large cube of ice so it doesn't dilute so fast? These are all things that play into a cocktail, other than just making it look pretty and taste good.
So my one of my childhood friends, best friend, family, he said, "Dang, I want to be on this. I'm at work." So my homie Dave, like Dave is the guy we were growing up. Cologne, he knows the cologne game.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut. Fingerhut eBay back in the day.
Yeah.
He had all the polo boots. He had all that, like that day, the homeboy Dave. Like, shout out to Big Dave back in Duck, Oklahoma. But like seriously, like this is why I enjoy doing what I do, man. There's just so much amazing talent across this country
Mm-hmm.
that we as Black people are just not being exposed to those conversations of I'm not limited to the cocktail that I make. I'm not limited to, because I work at something.
Yeah.
Like if I just unfolding everything that what you said, man, like when you go from talking about the influence of your father being an entrepreneur and his work ethic, and I believe your dad was a truck driver, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Your dad drove trucks long hours and still worked, and here you are with your own family and working hard, and you apply what you learned and influenced by to create these cocktails, and then you are an artist. I mean, and this is for people watching. Go to Standish Cocktails on social media. The music in the background, and you had to tell me this. The music in the background is your music, and taking these platforms and owning your space in it
Mm-hmm.
that's led to your uniqueness, that's led to you having a following, that's led to people wanting to come and meet with you for what you do. Because we're still in the age of people not being that excited about supporting things that are Black owned. Let's be clear.
Correct.
We are still in the age of people are still not truly committed to Black owned. I'm not talking about people who are not Black, but folks who are Black and of African descent not committed to it. But Myles, what you have done for me in this experience of making this cocktail, this old fashioned,
Turned you to a believer.
not to believer, bro. Like it's not even the believer. Like you've actually really helped me break outside of my personal constructs of how to make a cocktail, because I would have not considered apricot liqueur. I would have thought that you make it with sugar cubes. And guess what? I do have sugar cubes.
Yeah.
But we didn't use sugar cubes.
But you're not wrong with that. The traditional way was using sugar. It just you have to remember things have come so far, right? And I know like some of the purists with cocktails, like there's like this back and forth thing like that. You can't be stuck on the old way so much that you're not willing to try the new way, because there are incredible cocktails and incredible things being done with cocktails. Just because it started that way does not mean it's supposed to end that way. It's supposed to evolve. And so I look at cocktails like that. Yeah, it started with just sugar, but look at where we are now. Like you can the measurements can be so precise with simple syrup. And be clear, I preferred using sugar cubes just because I like sugar cubes. I think sugar cubes are awesome. The whole premise behind the sugar cube in the first place is sugar releases endorphins that make you happy. So that little bit of granulated sugar that you get once you're at the bottom of the glass and you're done drinking it, you're drinking it, you're having a good time, you're having your little vibe, and then at the end of the cocktail, you get the little granules of sugar. Sugar releases endorphins that are supposed to make you happy. So that's those little tidbits and that science behind cocktail.
Is that even that what's funny about what you said about just that simple detail? It's at the bottom of your glass. It's almost nostalgic. As a kid, you want the last drop of the
Yeah.
sweet thing, right? You see adults and grown people trying to get, if there's sugar at the bottom or syrup at the bottom,
Yep.
how they want to taste that last bit.
Okay. Why do you think that is? That's
That's a
not just a
chemical in
fluke.
your brain. That's a
It's
that's a chemical in your brain.
correct. Correct.
Oh man, like Myles, man, like I could I really do have so many more questions. Um, not just about like the science of cocktails, but
Hmm.
I I really do want to give you your flowers for what you do, bro, because I enjoy going into spaces, especially where there are not a lot of black people
Hmm.
represented, and they're committed to being excellent at the craft, providing an experience. And it's not even about like trying to prove someone's the best, but you can look at a person and tell like they are committed to this craft and making sure that when you leave from here, like you have a different perspective of what black people can do. And that's not an
So,
easy place for people to be in. And I can't say, I really personally can't say for you that you have taken up this particular mantle, but I just know that from this, making this old fashioned,
mhm.
that you've helped me get beyond a mental block in my head of how something can be created. So if people want to know how to follow you, how to support you, because I know I've been sending those messages about where is the book? Where is the recipe? Where's I want to know where the Standards Cocktails by Myles bartending book, where is that at? But how can we as a community support you no matter where we are? How can we support and follow you?
Okay, so most of my work is done between Instagram, TikTok, that kind of stuff. Um, right now I'm venturing into other things, but honestly, just support the movement with social media and getting the word out. Like it's been such an amazing um roller coaster journey for me. Um, Especially with the space that I'm in right now and just being at a point to where people are actually gravitating, not so much gravitating, but like wanting to invest not just their their eyes on social media, right? But they're wanting to invest their time, honestly, their money, their just everything into what I'm doing because of how I believe in what I'm doing. And if there's any way to show my appreciation is to continue doing what I'm doing in a way that's passionate so that I don't feel like I'm cheating the people, but that I'm giving because like all these things that I know and learn about and all of that stuff like that, it's not meant for me to just keep it for myself. It's meant to be shared. So my thing is follow me if you want to learn something. Follow me if you want to have a sharing and a growing experience because that's what I'm about is just sharing an experience and making people feel good about what it is that they're doing, what it is that they're watching, what it is that they're learning, man. Like it's an important space for me.
So as I clean off this spoon in a very country way, um, it's a
I love
very
it.
good question. Look here, look. I tell people that I know, don't let these degrees fool you. I am born and raised in Stevens County. My grandfather was born in the Arbroath Mountains of Chickasaw Territory. and my grandmother was born in Hennepin, Oklahoma. Like, we don't play around.
No, everything come out of jelly jar. That's it. I get it.
Exactly. Like, hold on, wait, hold on, man. Like, look, don't let's not forget the water. Let's not forget the water.
No, 1000%.
I'm being very direct. I'm being very direct, and I believe that you are being modest in response to the question how we could support you. I want to know what support do you need for where you are in your life right now? And be as honest as you can be, as you want to be, from brother to brother. It's hard for us to, especially doers, to be open. But be direct. Like, if there's a place where you need, hey, donate here, support this cause, or follow me in these places. Like, I want you to be direct, because that's important for me, for what you've given me today.
1000%. As always, listen, I always tell people, being a content creator, social media, all of that stuff, none of that stuff is free. A lot of times, like, the everyone sees the glitz and glamour, and they don't see the amount of free stuff that you do, or the amount of things that you spend your own money on. So following me is big for me. Literally, which is it's at Standish Cocktails. Like, y'all, Standish Cocktails literally on everything. Supporting anything that I do as far as my business ventures and all of that stuff go. Venmo, all of that stuff is Standish Cocktails. I'm always taking donations, but understand that everything that I earn, I put back into that. That's my thing, is putting whatever it is that I get and putting it towards, whether it's buying booze, whether it's buying product, whether it's taking the time to just say, hey, I'm going to make a video for you guys because you want to see how this is done. Okay, boom, let me go to the store and grab that. Like that, it's me being, like I said, me being able to learn and then being able to teach is my thing. So all the support in any of those ways is always appreciated.
As we close it out, I promise you, I am trying not to finish this. I'll be honest, this is probably the best old-fashioned cocktail that I have ever had, because it was different. And I think in the apricot liqueur made the difference. And now understand finding the rum. So I am going to reach out to you and finding if there are Black-owned rum companies. Just coming back from Jamaica. Jamaica was a whole experience. That's a whole other conversation. But I appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me about your experience in as being a bartender, mixologist in the cocktail space, in the hotel industry, from your experience growing up in Pompano to now in Boca Raton, to being a father, a husband, a mentor, a leader, an entrepreneur, a brand connoisseur. All of that is inspiring for me as a person living in Oklahoma City, because there are not a lot of Black men and Black male entrepreneurs doing disruptive work. So I love being able to hear and learn. And I'm going to walk away from this conversation today feeling that I have somebody that I can look up to that's doing disruptive work in Florida. And I hope that when this podcast ends, that this doesn't end our communication and support of each other. I watch you more than what you likely think, and I'm inspired by what you do. And if there's anything that I can do personally or through my connection brands. I would love to get you to Oklahoma City to do your work for a concept, a brand, a fundraiser to our 501c3 Bigger Than Food Foundation, or whatever it is. Because what you showed me today was something amazing. And I want to be connected to people like you and what you do, bro. Like, this has been a great experience. So I for everyone watching, please follow Myles at Standish Cocktails on social media. Please seek him out, search him out, make a donation, cash app him, find a way to support him. If you are in Florida in any way and you can be nearby, seek him out wherever he is. Tell your friends, share this YouTube. It's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Share it with anybody that you know, and be intentional with how you spend and be intentional how you support Black entrepreneurs. And brother, cheers to you. Thank you for what you do. And I'm probably going to take a nap today. No, not probably. I will.
Listen, I just want to say I'm humbled by the whole experience, and man, talk about giving somebody their flowers. Like, I am so just grateful for everything, for the acknowledgement, for the good conversation. You have to stay in the state of gratitude at all times, right? So whatever comes my way from anything that I do out of my love and passion for cocktails, I am eternally grateful for. And with that said, I am definitely grateful for you and grateful for the opportunity that you provided with me today, and just being able to touch and reach a different audience, and letting people see and feel what I'm passionate about.
And I appreciate you, brother. So we're going to end this episode today on those high and positive notes. And
yes, sir.
When I switch to that camera view, that's being my glass got a little emptier. So I don't have much left. I'm going to replicate this. And for everyone that's watching, thank you for tuning in to episode 8 of the Bigger Than Food podcast, featuring Myles from Standish Cocktails, right out in it's South Florida, right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
I was debating. I was like, all right, do I go back into the vault and figure out like what genre, decade of South Florida music to use that's appropriate? I was struggling, brother. I was struggling because what I wanted to use may have not been appropriate for me to use. So I try to find some place. So in the repurposing of it, I'll find what's appropriate. But man, thank you for today. Black man to black man. And brother, I appreciate this. And this is not going to be the last time. And we're planning a trip to Shelbyville.
Yeah.
To go out to Uncle Nearest. So when we finalize those details, I hope that maybe you're able to join us out there.
Please let me know. That would be something. That would be amazing. I would love that. I already like Tennessee is literally one of my favorite places ever. So I love it.
So actually in 15 minutes, I'm having a meeting with Uncle Nearest in 15 minutes. So if there is a way we can incorporate you to our trip in the fall, I would love to be out there. Thank you for joining us for the Bigger Than Food podcast, episode 8. Y'all, please make sure that you support Standish Cocktails, support Myles, support this podcast, supporting Black-owned entrepreneurs and businesses throughout the country. We will do this continually. We will do this until I cannot do this anymore. I thank you for your time today, and we will see you next week for our next episode of the Bigger Than Food podcast.